Good day to you. We are looking at a topic that is current. 10 giants of our day. I have called them 10 global giants. So why do I mean by 10 global giants? Everything in the globe today works against the nation, works against the family, works against the individual. So we are going to look at, we will look at how this has developed so far, and 10, what shall I call it, 10 character styles that are influencing the globe today. As you know, Karl Marx was one person who brought in Marxism, and that has influenced a large global segment. So there are other less famous names or characters who had played a role at some time in history, current or past, that's affecting us today. I hope to trace some such character traits that become global giants, that works against nation, family, and the individual. Remember, nations are sovereign entities to do all the good they can. Same with family, to do all the good they can to those who belong in a family. And individual, of course, is responsible for all the good he can do to himself. So Nimrod was an early king living in the time of the original Babylon, which was called Babel at that time. And he's called a mighty hunter, and the word used there is one who fell upon others and forced others to do what he wanted to do. So the end result was a tower at a place called Babel. You may have heard about this. Now, if you have not heard about it, what you need to know is geologically and archaeologically, they have found in Iraq a place where there's a huge amount of old bricks and a mound of bitumen at the time when they used bitumen and old bricks to build strong towers or fortresses. And Nimrod convinced a few of his colleagues and forced the entire populace of that time in 2300 BC, 2100 BC to build a tower as tall as he said, as tall as heaven, so that we will have a name for ourselves. So this building a tower for global effect, in that time global meant the entire population was under the power of Nimrod. At present also, powers are at work, fake science and everything else, to get the globe under the power of few. We call it plutocracy, plutarch or oligarch, under the power of a few. So that's where it is heading. Secondly, a character called Cain, who wanted to kill his brother because of the advantage he thought his brother could have. And Cain also played the religious game, using a sacrifice like bribe, to bribe God to get his end. But when he found his brother is more congenial, more accepted, he killed his brother. That was the first fratricide and first murder on earth. Thirdly, a person who was angry from his mother's womb, Ishmael, who was an angry fighter from the mother's womb because of father's separation. And now we know what a child goes through in his womb enters his genetics as epigenetics. When I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis, when we were in the medical faculty, we did not know that. But now it is known that what a mother goes through, external factors enter the genome as epigenetics, and there is a genetic influence that can go on to another generation. So fisticuffs and a spirit fighting in the mother's womb can be transmitted to another generation. This comes with fatherlessness, and this comes with a cancel spirit. That is, you cancel everybody else or whoever is against you with a true story or a false story. So you know the cancel culture you may have observed going on in Western countries now. Fathers of a nation are toppled over their statues because historically some fault is found with them. and any good they do or did is of no consequence, the cancel culture. It may happen to you overnight. You might be a university professor and some mistake you made over social media can be used against you to just cancel you out. That's the cancel culture, giving no tolerance, giving no chance for a reprieve, cancel culture. Fourth character that I would like to look at is a chap called Esau. He wanted to kill his brother because his brother was having he thought his brother had an advantage over him. So it is a world where fathers are killed or cancelled, and you also don't like anyone with more merit or a different view to have any place in society. So that's the cancel culture. So it is driving the whole world into people of one mold who do not tolerate any other mold. That's the cancel culture. So that struggle for existence, bitter spirit, might is right, survival of the fittest, all that goes on. Fifth character is a character called Bela, who used religion for monetary profit. So this phenomenon will also be there. People who use religion for monetary profit. It is not for the good of anyone else, but for their own good, to gain monetary advantage with religious mambo jumbo. Next one. Next slide. Sixth one is a chap called Korah, who created or engaged in a power struggle to remove the leader. So constantly decapitation of the one above you goes on. These are the spirits of globalism overrunning the world. It's a common, in those days, nations had different problems, but these days, nations have a common structure to the problems. Common problems, but different players, because that is what globalism is. It has invaded national boundaries. At present, we will see that it has invaded family boundary, and it has invaded the personal boundary, because there are three governments going on: the national government, the family government, and the personal government. And fourthly, you might add a governance in work, how the work field gets governed. Fifthly, a government in money. Five different kinds of governments, executive entities, but all are being invaded by the global drive and the global rule. Yes. So this chap Korah was fighting to depose the one who was duly appointed and was actually caring for the people. Seventh character type is a Saul, a self-indulgent leader who wants to hang on and on all the time. He kills succession. So when a Saul is in office, what happens? Goliaths rise around the world, giants that are allowed to grow into humongous problems, and population begins to suffer. Eighth character that I like you to remember is, we are not going to do all these characters, but I'm giving you an understanding of characters of people that have made a not so good mark in history, just the way Karl Marx. Then Absalom, his name was son of peace, Absalom, but he actually wanted to kill his father. So Absalom is a character trait where he talks peace, but he has the sword very quickly under his thigh to stab. That's Absalom. Now that's a nature character trait that is pervading the world. Talks peace, but it is actually a sword that is being wielded. Ninth character trait is Ahab, a weak leader again, who is seemingly the power. 10th character is Jezebel, who is the power behind the throne. You might have heard that before, power behind the throne. And that character will be into sorcery, seduction, ruled by threat or by twist, the power behind the throne. So you will find increasingly there are powers behind the throne, which means propped up facades, faces. So when you look at UK, who is doing the shutdown, lockdown? Who is giving the statistics for unending measures that are driving the pandemic rather than putting down the pandemic. So those are some of the signs and symptoms of the present global order that reduces the nation to nothing, reduces the family to nothing, reduces the person, no freedom of choice. This will get into your work field, and this will get into the currency. Increasingly, your national currency will be made to be useless so that they can introduce a globalized currency. That's where the world is going. So let's look at the next slide. Socialism. This is centralization of wealth by a global plutocracy. 154 of them are met for 3 days in Singapore. They call themselves the Good Club. They are the world's top billionaires. They are planning more and more how to invade sovereign nations, how to remove the family structure. Because if the family stays together, people have identity and belonging. That's why this drive to destroy the family, I will soon look at a slide, the sociological phenomena that have been set in motion to destroy the family. Then invade your personal space. Today I saw a post that said, what is most washed next to hands? So I looked at the center was a small brain. By washing, brain has got small with pandemic, fake science news, and fake watch people all the time dismantling fact as fake. So Prof. Tom Jefferson is the director of the Center for Evidence-Based Medicine in Oxford. Once he commented on the social media on a research he had done. Immediately the fake checked him out and said, this is false. Then the professor wrote back and said, what do you mean this is false? I am the one who conducted the research. I am a frontline opinion maker on this area of research. So that's what fact check, fake check is about. So all news checks, fake checks on social media will uphold a certain view that disrupts the nation's importance. So the global good club, they have called themselves the good club, is invading every nation with their theories. The last one was the COP26 in Scotland. They will use the climate issue, they will use the health issue, they will use the fossil fuel issue, ecological disaster issue. All those true issues and false issues will be used to invade the nations, invade the family, remove personal freedoms, control the work field completely, and then control the money in a way we really don't know what we can use as currency. That's where it is going. Next slide. So here are the ways in which the social, moral family disrupt is engineered. Family is run down, marriage breakups, abortions more than live birth, living together, denying the marriage covenant, the LGBTQ theories, transgenderism, pedophilia, sex trafficking, and human trafficking. That's the way the family is disrupted. As I said, nation disrupted, family disrupted, personal freedom and identity, dignity disrupted, work field disrupted, and the currency system disrupted, so that only a few will have complete access to the control of all things. This is not how the Good Shepherd made us. He gave us freedom in our nation. He gave us freedom in the family. And dignity, of course. He gave us freedom as a person. And he gave us freedom of work, what to study, how to study, what kind of work to do. And he gave us worth enough for another generation to earn what they are capable of earning. Man, in the system Good Shepherd drew up, legislated, he made sure that humans cannot oppress other humans. My dominion stops at the point where your liberty begins. Next slide. So globalism is, world is getting smaller, more intertwined every day, And next slide. And that this slide presentation, I'm on another Zoom. So those who are on my timeline, if you would send me a request to my WhatsApp number +94 76 313 4800, I can send this slide presentation to you, or I can send the clip done with the slide presentation +94 76 313 4800. Also, my app Golden Nuggets and Dr. Lalith Mendis is available on Google Store and on Google and an app Golden Nuggets. This is my 289th Science and Reason talk. My last post was as head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. That's why many of my talks have quite a bit of pharmacology involved. Next global giant at play are fake philosophical scientism as well, where the proper scientific process of clinical trials stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 is removed, and just after 6 months or even less of a clinical trial, it is said results are outstanding and raw data are not available, complete statistical manipulation. I am published on things like this. You can check me out as Dr. Lalith Mendis plus PubMed. Or ResearchGate, you will find my research articles on some of these things like statistics, statins, aspirin, levodopa, and drug therapy of some diseases. I gave you that background, so when I make scientific statement, I'm doing it with a certain science background. So the fake philosophical mysticism that is prevailing and pervading medical journals, publishing falsified articles, and they have to retract it later. And then BBC doing drug conferences or seminars in a populist way, drowning the science, making the mainstream opinion. Drugs that are repurposed and are available for a dangerous disease like COVID does not get any prominence. So clinicians struggle and patients die. So there's a man-made, man-created pandemic. So what happened during our time, during this time in 2020, was that there was as if a horse-talking piece, white-colored, ran through the world, shooting invisible arrows, getting into the mindsets of governments, lawmakers, shut down, locked down, and this goes on. In Austria and Germany, they are contemplating a shutdown only for those who have not got the needle. So the world over, it is seen that both equally get infected because this thing does not prevent infection. But then that's how the new mumbo jumbo science is made. This will increasingly merge into a semi-religious mumbo jumbo, spiritual new age scientism, neoliberal socialism, big government and sponsored spending, centralized wealth in the hands of a few. And they redistribute for bare needs, having taken away from the people right to work, ability to work. That's what shutdown, lockdown is doing world over. Resources become scarce. Distribution is getting difficult. And what the global quarterly, the global giants, the global dinosaurs, I call them sometimes the oligarchs, what they permit only is economically feasible. So over the last 30 years, wealth has concentrated in the hands of a few. 1% of the world controls 44% of the world's wealth. Never in the history of mankind that has been there. I'll repeat it. 1% of the world's richest control 44% of world's wealth. So the rest of the 99% have to do with this 56%. You can see how unequal it is. And over the last year, just in one COVID year, the earnings of the billionaires have quadrupled. It's gone into the trillions. So that's how serious the problem is. Next slide. Nimrod and the kingdom of Babylon, they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach the skies. Let us make for ourselves a name so that we will never scatter. So they would earn a name and their fame, and the normal people, the common citizen, will become like slaves. Increasingly, that's what's happening. In Sri Lanka, 67% of people depend on their daily earning. Another 16% depend on, they have to work daily to supplement their monthly income. So that's how sad it is when wealth inequality presses on nations. Next one. Then this Babylon is going to crash. Next slide, yes. The pandemic. Are the illnesses and plagues and pestilence telling us something? The next one. So here is a statement. For this reason, in one day, plagues will come. There will be pestilence, mourning, and famine. So in 1 hour, one day, we had the cities all shutting down, and it was a phenomenon we never expected. Shut down, lockdown. Next one. So why is so much of climate talk going on? Simply because the earth is showing signs of age. That's a fact. So tectonic plates are creaking, causing earthquakes. Ocean currents change and oceans are rolling. Corals are down to 40%. Why is this important? Corals are the kidneys of the world, ocean corals. And ocean corals control the pH value of the living system and the world's fluids, world's oceans control. Corals control the pH. And in the body, if our kidneys are down to 33%, we call it chronic renal failure, chronic kidney failure. The world's kidney, the corals are down to 40%. So you wonder what happens if they go down to 33%. Desertification increases, potable water, that is drinkable water, is dwindling, and increasingly more and more celestial bodies are sort of wishing past Earth. Now when I say wishing, it means about 100,000, 200,000 miles away, but it's a serious problem increasingly. My take is this, that world is a design clock, and when the clock begins to run down, it will show up. When entropy increases, chaos increases. It is showing up already. A good shepherd designed earth, ecosystems, families, nations, that we may live considering each other, above all considering the next generation. But for the past 40 years, we have consumed so much in a way that the next generation, we have not preserved the ecosystems for the next generation. That's the problem. It's not only about fossil fuel, it is just that we have disrupted many, many ecosystems by our absurd consumption because we ate as much as we can, but we did not want. So the world's main industries have turned out to be 1, armament, 2, motor industry, 3, fashion industry, 4, IT industry, 5, entertainment industry, 6, perfume industry, 7, cosmetics and perfume, yes, then 8, confectionaries, and pharma. This is not pharmaceuticals we need for dangerous diseases, just a wellness, illness, massive industry based on fake science. So this is how we have consumed all we can, leaving most ecosystems damaged, disrupted. So we didn't think of a next generation, the most educated, most provided generation, which lived between, let's say, 1970 and 2010. In those 40 years, we ate as much as we can. This was not the pattern. The Good Shepherd has said, be fruitful, multiply, fill and fulfill your space, your potential. Then steward the next generation with what you learn, that they may have their lifetime. So we are under threat. globe is under threat, and the pandemic has put our immunity under threat. This is the first time human immunity has been tampered. It is a well-known fact that natural killer cells, our natural innate immune system, natural killer cells go first to handle the viruses or the bacteria. That's how the best vaccines work, like oral polio, BCG, excellent vaccines. You get it when you're very small. They work wonderfully because they potentiate your cellular immunity. The present ones are completely different. Yes. If you need more substance on it, you have to send me to my WhatsApp number 0763134800. Then I will send you the relevant clips. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. So some time ago, I was also very passionate about the scientific process, which still I am. I became first in the island in the A-level examination in 1970. My school was St. Thomas's College, Mount Lavinia. I entered Colombo Medical Faculty, and every exam I became batch top in the Colombo Medical Faculty. Though still there were only two medical faculties, Colombo and Berlin. So I'm passionate for the scientific process. My research in medicine has been on irritable bowel syndrome, migraine, aspirin-like drugs, levodopa, Parkinsonism. So in those, I'm published on the PubMed. That's the central PubMed. You can look me up. And also in the last 7 years, I have done research on the effect of the digital screen on learning career curriculum. And I have presented a seminar to the Sri Lanka Medical Association, and that document is available in the public space, or I can send it to you. So I have done a lot of lectures and clips on how ADHD-like symptoms manifest when a child is too much on the digital screen. Protect your child in the first 14 years in their brain stretch, brain ability. So if you need any of those clips, you can download the app, Golden Nuggets, or send me to my WhatsApp now. Next one. Next slide. The economic chaos. Are we moving into a cashless society? All this talk about currency, that COVID is on the currency, cryptocurrency, microchipping technology that is now available in Sweden. It is already being done. Put all your details in a little injectable thing. It's done in Sweden. And also with graphene oxide, they can make you Wi-Fi sensitive. And some of it is used in good medical advances, where you can control the drugs that sometimes mRNA is used for cancer therapy. Then you can control how much is released. Hospital can while you are at home. So these are some medical advances that can be used for good, but when human beings are in charge, they can be also used for bad and the ugly. And you know the eugenics experiments Hitler's regime did. So when man makes science God and throws out God, science as a God becomes a terrible God. That's my conclusion. Studied conclusion. I am just publishing a book on this. It will be available from all Sarasavi bookshops. My books are available from all Sarasavi bookshops in part of the island. Apeksha bookshop in Morotua, in front of the cricket stadium, and Apeksha bookshop at 374 Ruhunukala Mount Borali. If you send your, we might be able to arrange some method by which you can pay so that we can send you the books. Quite a lot of books on different subjects. So let's see the economic slides. Anything more on the economy? Yes, economic crunch. So this rider with the scale in his hands, demanding world production and trade to maximize profit for global elite. This will precipitate a global grain crisis. In fact, one happened in 2008. Soon after the dead crunch, global trade policies made poor poorer, and then came Keynesian economics, driving demand and increased supply, resulting by 2020, 44% of global GDP in the hands of 1% of the global elite. In this fateful 60% basic needs such as health, education, housing, food got less and less, and major industries were armament, motor, fashion, IT, confectioneries, toys, cosmetics, pharma, quality food technologies will drive the world for me. So that's the scenario that is coming upon us. Next one. So it was clear that nations were made to look after your people, and families were made to look after the family structure, so that individual freedoms will prevail. When you disrupt family, disrupt nation, and global oligarchs begin to give their dictates how nations must be run, and they have started using a pandemic with health laws. Then will come other economic laws. Then will come green laws, all kinds of laws, removing your ability to choose. That's where we are moving. So when man is allowed to play God, he becomes a terrible God. Next one. Next slide. Yes. Here is a list of those industries that are mentioned. Next slide. 4 kinds of people, character traits, many betraying one another, hating one another, many getting deceived because lawlessness is increasing. Love gets dismantled, family love. So people live as they please. They break up marriage early. They live just in sexual indulgence, pedophilia, sex trafficking, and so there'll be 1/4 who will endure all this. Yes. Next one. Men will be lovers of self, lovers of money, boastful, arrogant, revilers, disobedient to parents, not a very salubrious list of character traits, ungrateful, unloving, irreconcilable, malicious gossips. You can see the kind of gossip and slander that goes on in the Facebook or any other social media. If someone decides to slander you, it's just there. You'll be cancelled out of reputation. Without self-control, brutal, haters of good, treacherous, reckless, conceited, lovers of pleasure, and holding, yes, what they say is always right, is the culture that is coming up. Next one. What kind of people would be there? Next one. They were eating, they were drinking, they were sexually licentious, and then it suddenly happened. Yes. Next one. The cancel culture. That is, do we have a slide on the cancel culture? The mighty man and the warrior, the judge and the prophet, the divine, the captain of 50 honorable men, the counselor and expert artisan. Yeah. So lads become princes, capricious children will rule over them. So that's how the marches have been organized by capricious children, throwing over nations' fathers because they did something wrong 250 years ago, 300 years ago. So we are made to disown our history. So that's the way to rule people, remove their identity, remove their belonging, remove their history. And the people will be oppressed, each one by another, each one by his neighbor. The youth will storm against the elder and inferior against the honorable. Now, please, you need to write that down. What is the cancel culture? Youth will storm against the elder, the inferior one against the honorable. That is the cancel culture. A very good definition of cancel culture. Yes, next one. Spiritual famine of people not knowing what is truth, people not knowing what is right. Next one. They gave themselves over to degrading passions. Women exchanging their natural function for that which is unnatural. In the same way also men abandoned the natural function of the woman and burned in their desire towards one another. Men with men committing indecent acts and receiving in their own persons the penalty of their error. They did not acknowledge God, and their minds became depraved to do things which are not proper. being filled with wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, strife, deceit, malice, gossip, slanders, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil. I think this is a real thing in our time. Many inventions of not good. You know, all the pioneer scientists were those who believe in a good designer, and they believe scientific laws are discoverable. Albert Einstein said God does not play dice with his cosmos. With what he meant thereby is science is discoverable law. Now science is just speculation, and mainstream media, whatever they suggest, becomes science in 1 month. In those days, research took a lifetime. Now in 1 month, new science is made. So slanderous, insolent, arrogant, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, unmerciful. I think this is so true. They just come at you for anything. They just come at you. So this is a very sad society we are moving into. So parents need to give more time. I'm doing a series on teen tones. Teen tones. I prepare them as little posts that you can send it to your friends. So if you are interested in all of this, please send your WhatsApp number to 0763134800. You won't get any calls, just the posts that are shareable will educate you in very necessary survival tactics. Yes, for yourself, children, teens, youth, across the board, there'll be good, sensible advice. Yes. Next one. Have you finished? Yes. So where do we go from here? We have a promise from the Good Shepherd. Yes, the last section on the political arrangements that's going on. So what happened when President Biden abdicated Afghanistan suddenly, precipitously? No one expected it. It was against American national interests. 184 Black Hawk top-end helicopters were left behind, and very next day, China moved into Afghanistan and made Afghanistan part of the Belt and Road, their philosophy. So they're that closer, and there's a red horse with a sword holding sway over the world. Next one. Yes. So the time is coming when this numbering system will cause all the small and the great and the rich and the poor, of free men and slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand, on their forehead. He provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name or. So it's a time of totalitarian control the world is moving into. People are planning towards it. That's why nations are in such strangulation. Have a little mercy for Sri Lanka before you criticize it. I've just written a little, what shall I say, not a verse on, we just bless our nation. Young people, our brains will not drain off. We have stayed in this nation, as I told you. I was top of my batch in Colombo Medical Faculty, and we stayed in Sri Lanka all our life. My daughter is a medical consultant in this country. We stayed in this country because we believe the Good Shepherd had a good plan for every nation. And Good Shepherd has a good plan for each one of us. His promise is that he has an area of green, he calls it the green pasture, and he has resources to develop it, and he gives you entrepreneurial skill, management skill, and the technological skill. Three things that come together to decide your grace, your gift, and your mission, which may be enough for your family, which you may have a work field that can feed or provide livelihood for 10 others, or you may be a chairman of a company that is providing livelihoods for 10,000 families. Three close friends of mine are chairman of companies who provide, their companies have over 10,000 job descriptions. And thankfully, they thank God for it, Good Shepherd for it. They have gone through COVID time, kept their profits in a right way, retrenched nobody, they did not cut down salaries and they're still able to function. So it is possible. So Good Shepherd says, I have a green patch for you, a measure, and your life harvest. I have resources for you for your next step and your next step. And he says, I will provide for you a place of restoration when things go wrong. And I'll provide for you paths of rightness, straight paths, so that in difficult times you will know how to travel. And he promises, he provides our table, and that means how we live, how much we live, and he gives us our placement, the people, and the provision. Three things: our placement, the people, and the provision. And people would be our seniors, our peers, and our juniors for whom we are responsible. So that's the arrangement that the Good Shepherd offers. And he says, if you are happy, I can help you in that. Thank you for listening.